Ever get that feeling you just know what your soulmate would look like? I mean, even though you haven't met them yet,
Exactly.
like you could describe them. Today we're diving into, well, whether that's just wishful thinking or, if our intuition can actually like predict what our soulmate will look like.
Yeah,
It's a fascinating concept.
it is. It really is. The idea that our intuition, that gut feeling, might actually give us, some glimpse into the actual physical traits of our ideal partner. Almost like we have this like sixth sense for love.
Exactly. We're exploring an article. It's called What Your Ideal Partner Looks Like. Can Intuition Predict Appearance?
Okay.
And it really gets into this question, is this idea of recognizing our soulmate, when we see them? Is it just a nice romantic notion? Or could there be something, something more to it?
Well, if you look throughout history and across cultures, the idea of soulmates,
Yeah.
how they just like recognize each other,
Yeah.
that idea has been around for a long time. It makes you wonder if there's more to it than just a nice story.
Yeah. Right, right. Okay, so how do we move from that feeling, that soulmate feeling, to like actual physical traits? Can science help us understand this at all?
Evolutionary psychology,
Okay.
it offers some pretty interesting insights into this. Basically, we humans, we're wired to be attracted to features that signal health. Good genes, things like symmetry,
Right.
clear skin,
Sure.
certain body proportions. These are often seen as universally attractive. But that's just like the starting point.
Okay. So it's more nuanced than just being drawn to like the most attractive people.
Oh, for sure. Our personal preferences, those develop over time. And it's based on like this mix of biological and social factors. For instance, have you ever heard of childhood imprinting?
I don't think so.
It's this idea that we might be like subconsciously seeking partners who resemble our parents
Whoa, wait. So I could be drawn to someone who looks like my mom?
or early caregivers. Yeah.
That's a little, I don't know. That's a little freaky, isn't it?
Well, think about it this way. Our early relationships,
Yeah.
the ones we have early on,
Yeah.
they kind of shape our understanding of what feels, familiar,
I guess.
safe, secure. And we might not consciously realize those connections,
Yeah.
but they can definitely influence who we find attractive.
Wow. That is fascinating.
Yeah.
What about like the role of culture and media?
Oh, huge.
They seem to have a big influence on what's considered attractive, don't they?
Enormous influence, I would say. Media, it's constantly bombarding us with all these images
Right.
of, quote, ideal beauty. It really shapes our perceptions of, like, what's considered desirable
Yeah.
in a partner. I mean, think about how those ideals have changed, even within the same culture, but over time.
It's true, yeah. Haven't there been like studies that have shown that we're also drawn to people who kind of remind us of past relationships, like good relationships?
Absolutely.
The good ones.
Yeah, positive associations.
Yeah.
From, those past romantic experiences.
Right.
They can also influence our preferences. And let's not forget the whole familiarity and proximity effect. We tend to, like, develop feelings for people that, we encounter regularly.
Oh, yeah. So are you saying that our like quote type is really just it's not like this magical soulmate radar or something. It's just a jumble of subconscious influences.
That's an interesting way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, a lot of these preferences, they really do operate below our, our conscious awareness.
Yeah.
And that's where the connection to intuition gets really interesting, don't you think?
Okay, so this is where it gets like a little out there, right? I'm talking about those soulmate drawings.
Oh, yeah.
That, some people are really into.
The intuitive artists who say they can, visualize your soulmate
Yeah.
just based on your energy.
Yes. It's a polarizing idea for sure.
Definitely a polarizing concept.
Some people are totally on board and others, they think it's totally bogus. So where do you stand? What's your take?
Well, I think, it's important to approach these things with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Of course.
Right. But I do think that there could be, some psychological mechanisms at play that might make it seem like these drawings are accurate. You know what I mean?
Like what? Are you saying there's a chance that like they're tapping into something real?
Well, think of it this way. These drawings, right, they might be revealing subconscious patterns in our, in our attraction.
Okay.
That, we haven't consciously recognized. Maybe they're drawing out those hidden preferences that we've been talking about,
So maybe they're not actually seeing our soulmate,
Right.
but rather they're just reflecting our deeply ingrained preferences in a visual form.
Precisely. And because those preferences are often subconscious, it can feel like the drawing is, you know, eerily accurate, even if it's more about our own internal, like, love map than some, like, psychic connection or whatever.
That makes a lot of sense. So it seems like even without us knowing it, our brains are doing a lot of the matchmaking behind the scenes.
Absolutely. I mean, we're constantly processing, all these subtle cues
Yeah.
for compatibility. And it goes way beyond just physical appearance. It's things like scent, even micro expressions, the way someone moves.
Yeah.
All of that can factor into, our subconscious assessments.
So even without a mystical, like, soulmate drawing, our brain is already on the lookout
Yeah,
for potential partners who fit, our love map.
exactly. It's like our brain is constantly, scanning the environment,
Oh, wow.
looking for matches, even when we're not actively thinking about finding a partner.
So maybe intuition, it isn't necessarily about, like, picturing specific features, but maybe it's more about recognizing a feeling or, like, an energy
Yeah.
that aligns with those subconscious preferences we've been talking about.
You're getting it. It's less about predicting the exact details and more about recognizing, a certain sense of resonance
Mm.
or familiarity. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. All right. I think we've laid a good foundation here. We've explored those, biological and psychological factors that shape our attraction. And we've even, dipped our toes into those intriguing
Yeah.
soulmate drawings.
Intriguing and controversial, yes.
But I'm curious about, can we consciously influence this process? Can we actually, like, manifest love by visualizing our ideal partner? We'll dive into that right after this. So, before the break, we were talking about how our brains might be doing all this matchmaking
Right.
behind the scenes
Okay.
without us even realizing it. But can we tap into that process consciously?
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, can we use these techniques, like visualization,
Yeah.
to, like, manifest love?
Visualization. It's a powerful tool,
Okay.
but it's not about, like, dictating every single little detail of your soulmate's, appearance.
Okay.
It's more about, like, clarifying your values
Uh-huh.
and your desires in a relationship.
So instead of focusing on, like, oh, they have to have this hair color, these eyes.
Yeah, yeah.
It's more about understanding the kind of connection we're seeking.
Exactly. Like, what really matters to you
Yeah.
in a partner, What are the qualities that would make you feel, loved, respected, supported? Visualization can really help, like, bring those desires into focus.
That makes sense. But okay, what about, I've heard stories about people who, like, dream about their partner
Yeah.
before they even meet them, and then they meet someone and they look exactly like the person from their dream. What's up with that?
Ah, that's synchronicity.
Oh, so that's
Called, yeah, it's those moments, where coincidence just feels like fate, almost like it was meant to be.
Yeah.
There's actually a whole, like, field of study dedicated to understanding those kinds of, those meaningful coincidences.
Okay, so it's not just me then. Who, like, finds those stories kind of mind-blowing?
No, not at all.
Is there, like, a scientific explanation for synchronicity, or is it purely, like, a matter of how we perceive things?
Well, you see, our brains are wired
Uh-huh.
to find patterns
Right.
and make connections. So when a random event,
Yeah.
it leads to something significant, like meeting a potential partner, we tend to give it more meaning
Oh, okay.
than it might actually have.
So it's not necessarily that the universe is, like, conspiring
Right.
to, like, bring us together, but rather our minds are just trying to make sense of, like, everything that's going on around us.
That's one way to look at it, yeah. But even if it's just our perception, right?
Yeah.
That feeling of synchronicity, it can be really powerful. It can really reinforce our belief that we're on the right path.
I can definitely see that. Okay, so we've talked about intuition. We've talked about love maps. We even touched on synchronicity. But what about, those times when our intuition seems to, like, lead us astray? Why do so many relationships fail? If we're supposedly so good at, like, picking partners on this, like, subconscious level.
That's a great question. And, it highlights the fact that intuition,
Yeah.
it's not about being infallible.
Oh, okay.
It's about, accessing this deeper level of knowing,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't guarantee that, like, fairy tale ending.
So it's more like a compass than a GPS.
Yeah, I like that.
It points us in a general direction, but we
Yeah.
still have to navigate the terrain ourselves.
That's a great analogy.
Hmm.
And the terrain of relationships, it can be complex.
Oh, yeah.
We change, we grow over time. Sometimes, what we're intuitively drawn to at one point in our lives might not be the best fit later on.
That makes sense. So how can we tell if we're really following our intuition or if we're just letting our imaginations run wild?
Hmm. That's where discernment comes in.
Yeah.
True intuition, it often comes with this sense of like calm knowing.
Yeah.
It feels aligned with our values
Yeah.
and not driven by like desperation or fantasy.
So it's important to check in with ourselves.
Yeah.
And make sure that, our intuition is coming from a grounded place.
Exactly. And also to be aware of our own patterns.
Yeah.
Like are we repeatedly drawn to the same type of person?
Yeah.
Even if those relationships, haven't really worked out in the past.
That could be a sign that we need to examine those subconscious preferences a little more closely.
Exactly. Sometimes, those subconscious patterns, they need a little conscious tweaking.
Okay, so self-awareness is key. But if we're not supposed to be hung up on specific physical features, then what are we really looking for when it comes to recognizing our soulmate? Is it about recognizing a certain energy?
I think it's about recognizing, it's like recognizing a reflection of our own soul,
Whoa.
in a sense. It's someone who, embodies those qualities that we most admire, someone who inspires us to become, our best selves.
That's beautiful. So it's less about finding someone who, looks a certain way. It's more about finding someone who aligns with our values and our aspirations.
Exactly. When we connect with someone on that deeper level,
Hmm.
physical appearance really does become secondary.
I love that. It's not about, finding someone who just fits this preconceived image, but about being open to the unexpected.
Absolutely. Love often shows up in the most surprising packages.
This has been so insightful. But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, is there anything else you want to add?
Just this, don't underestimate the power of your own intuition. Pay attention to those gut feelings and moments of recognition.
Yeah.
But remember to stay open and allow yourself to be surprised. Love often comes when we least expect it.
That's a great reminder. Okay, we'll be right back to, explore those final questions about finding love in the last part of our deep dive. Don't go anywhere. Okay, so we're back. And, we've been talking about this whole intuition and attraction thing, but how do we actually, use all of this
Good question.
to find love out there in the real world? Where do we even begin?
I think the most important thing to remember is that we shouldn't get super fixated
Okay.
on specific, physical features.
So, no more holding on to that super detailed image of our, dream partner.
Exactly. We got to be open to the possibility that love might show up looking, a little different than we imagined.
Oh,
Because remember, a lot of those preferences, they're subconscious.
right.
So they might not actually line up with what really makes us happy.
So how do we loosen our grip on
Mhm.
those preconceived notions, and just become more open to finding love?
It goes back to, what we were talking about before.
Yeah.
About self-awareness.
Okay.
Take some time to really think about your values, your needs, the qualities you actually desire in a partner.
So it's about getting clear on what we're looking for.
Yes.
Beyond just the superficial stuff.
Exactly. When you have a strong sense of your own values and what you want in a relationship, then your intuition can work better.
Yeah. It's like giving our intuition a clearer compass to work with.
I like that. So instead of focusing on finding someone who's tall, dark, and handsome,
Right.
maybe your intuition is trying to guide you towards someone who's,
Hmm.
kind, compassionate, shares your passion for, I don't know, rescuing stray animals or whatever.
Right. It's about tuning into that deeper sense of recognition, that feeling of alignment
Yes,
on a soul level.
precisely.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, physical attraction, it's important, right?
Yeah.
But lasting love, it's built on, shared values, mutual respect, that deep emotional connection.
So instead of getting caught up in creating this mental checklist
Yeah.
of physical traits, we should pay more attention to how we feel when we're with someone.
Exactly. Notice how you feel around this person.
Mm.
Do you feel, safe, seen, understood? Do they inspire you to be your best self.
Yeah.
Those are the signs of a truly compatible connection.
I mean, this has been amazing.
It's been fun.
It's really eye-opening.
Good, good.
Before we wrap up though, do you have any like final words of advice for our listeners out there who are, still on that search for love?
Just this.
Yeah.
Trust your intuition. But don't be afraid to let love surprise you, okay? Stay open to the possibility that your soulmate might not look exactly like you pictured. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Embrace the unexpected twists and turns of the journey.
I love that. So, to all of you listening out there, here's a little challenge for you. Think about those qualities, the ones you value most in a partner, and notice, if any physical traits consistently come to mind. Maybe your intuition is trying to tell you something. But remember to stay open to the possibility that love might show up in a way you never even thought of.
Beautifully said. And remember, sometimes the most fulfilling connections are the ones we least expect.
That is the perfect note to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into this fascinating world of intuition and attraction. We hope this has given you some things to think about.
Yes.
And, that you feel, inspired to trust your intuition as you go on your own journey to finding love.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening, everybody.